All right, this is Kansas State University at Salina, home of the Salina Wildcats. My name is Christian Jones Crawford, and today I'm going to be giving you guys a little bit of a tour of our school and then six positives and six negatives about coming here. So let's follow me as I take you back into some of the buildings that we got here. So, if you look over here, you'll see the Student Life Center. This is our also known as the SLC. This is where your gym is. You go to work out. You can also play ping pong. We also have an 11th of a mile track. You heard that right, an 11th of a mile. Not a 10th, but an 11th. That means you can do 11 laps according to the sign. 11 laps, 1 mile. 22 laps, 2 miles. Oh, let me guess. 33 laps for 3 miles. Now over here, you have the newest dorm building, Earhart Hall. That's going to run you a little bit on the more expensive side compared to our other two already established halls. You have Harbin Hall right here and Schilling Hall. Both halls are essentially the same thing. I think the main difference is just the size of the sink, if I'm being honest. And then if you look over here on your left-hand side, you have the College Center. That's where you'll find most of our admissions and our cafeteria and our bookstore. Now, for the most part, you're not going to spend that much time in the building unless you're eating. But that's okay, though, because here at Kansas State, you're probably not going to have you're not going to have too much time to eat because, well, quite frankly, we're not open that much. Hours at the cafeteria, really aren't that good, but I'll dive more into that later. So let's take a little bit of a trip to the SLC. Why don't we? All right, guys, we are now at the SLC or the Student Life Center. Follow me as we take a walk inside. So right here, you have a conveniently placed calendar that tells you the hours of operation, when they're open, when they're closed. For the most part, they're never going to be closed when you need them, unless it's nighttime. Then, of course, probably nobody get in. And on your right, we have the Cessna Lounge, where you have a Switch, a grand old PlayStation 3, and you have a foosball table and, some Pop-A-Shot. And there's also how nice of the school to provide us with old clothes from alumni in case you ever need to borrow some clothes. Now, to get into the SLC, you will need your Wildcat ID, which I conveniently have right here. So, what you're gonna do is, you're gonna come over here, you're gonna scan your way into the Student Life Center, and then you have access to everything in this building. So, take a walk with me as we go upstairs to go check out the 11th of a mile track that we have. So, up here, our glorious 11th of a mile track. You have a mini Peloton for the cyclists in the world, along with our student success coach, Julie Rao. And here it is right here, the track length. 11 laps for 1 mile. It's awesome. Now, as a matter of fact, this is probably the best view you can get of the SLC is up on this track. Our gym has 2 floors. The main floor, which has everything, and then the second floor, which has the track and some workout equipment, as you can see on my right-hand side here. And if you follow me over here, you have a glorious view of our full-size basketball court with 2 smaller size courts for, whenever people want to do basketball. We have run tier occasionally. We also have soccer, sometimes even volleyball. And, this is where most of your events are going to be hosted. Recently, we had the Salina Police Department come here and show us a drunk driving simulation. That was really cool. And, but yeah, for the most part, this is what most of the upper floor of the SLC contains. And if you come over here, you're going to have your treadmills, your bikes. Also have the infamous Stairmaster, everyone's favorite machine. Over here, you have your benches. If you're trying to build some muscle, this is a great place to start. Have an area over here, you can get your stretching in before you go and hit the gym. A lot of people find themselves here, mostly because, one, not much else to do here on campus besides work out and, just hang out with your friends at the gym. If haven't started, now's a great time to start. But for the most part, this is honestly in my opinion, my favorite building. I like to play ping pong. That's what I do in my free time for the most part, if I'm not, at work or doing schoolwork. But yeah, for the most part, this is the SLC. And now we're gonna go to the College Center. So follow me, guys. All right, here we are at the infamous K for K-State. This is where you're gonna have your College Center and Schilling. Now, in my opinion, I would say Schilling is the best college, even though I don't live there. It has the best proximity to everything else campus has to offer. Closest to the SLC, closest to the College Center, and close to the Tech Center, obviously the Stevens Flight Center. So let's go take a tour of the College Center. Let's see what we got going on over here. All right, here we are, the College Center. As you can see, Kansas State University, Salina. So this is our version of the student union, I would say. If you look over there on your right, you have the cafeteria with our centennial dining. We're not gonna go over there because there's a lot of people over there. But if you look over here, you have the campus bookstore. And then our only real lecture hall, I would really say, would be room 103. This is where most of your, major meetings. So this is where like the all pilot meeting would be, all mechanic meeting would be. And for the most part, you're only gonna go in there maybe once or twice. I think if I had one class in there and that was altitude chamber, it was really cool. But now we're gonna go upstairs to where it's gonna be our admissions office and the financial aid. All right, up here is most of the admissions buildings. You have your leadership suite over there. This is where you're gonna find your academic success coaches over here. Oh, and what do we have here? We have Captain Amr. Want to say hello to the tour for everyone?
Hello. How you guys doing?
So this is, right now, he's the admission representative. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do here?
So this is a really fun job to do. Basically, I answer phone calls. I help students get to their advisors. While I'm free, I can do some homework. I help students walk around campus as well, find where they wanna go. I give tours as well for upcoming students. So yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your insight, Captain Armor. We will be back to interview you later for the pilot portion of this video.
Sounds good.
So see you next time. And if you go over here, we have the financial aid office, which I'll dig into a little bit more depth later. But for the most part, you'll probably maybe only come here once, maybe twice, depending on how many times you need to see her. But for the most part, she's never here. And what do you know? Door's closed. But as you can see, that's really about it. Our campus is really small, so we don't need that much faculty to staff this place. So most of the time, if you need to have a meeting, it's probably going to be online. That's kind of the beauty of a small school, though. I feel like that's one of the advantages. Tight-knit community. And if you're an introvert, I would say this is probably the campus for you. Very easy to make friends here. I was able to make friends in my first couple of days of being here. But for the most part, if you're looking for party culture or that Big 12, party atmosphere, you're not gonna find that here, unfortunately. This is a technology campus, so you're probably gonna have a little bit more nerds than your average typical campus. And like I said, not that many students that live here. But now we're gonna go take a look into the tech center and see where most of your classes are gonna be for the most part. All right, here we are at the tech center. Now, for the most part, this is probably going to be smaller than your high school, depending on where you're coming from. But for the most part, this is, at least for me, where I spent my first semester. All my classes were in here. I didn't get into ground class for the first semester, so I spent most of my time here. And this is where you're going to take all your gen eds, your math, English, psychology, physics, sciences. You're going to be all these in here. And for the most part, I would say this building's open most of the time. There are some night classes, but, not really a lot happening in here. We are going to keep our voice a little bit more down because there are still classes going on. But as you can see, very modern look. You got a recording studio if you ever want to record a podcast, which is what I'll probably be using. You have the library over here on your right-hand side. We're not going to go inside it just to respect people's privacy, but we are going to take a little bit of a glimpse. They actually did just renovate it, and as you can see, maybe, you can see our best friend, P. Chow. Not well, you got a very studious-looking individual. You know, we have some vending machines here. Like I said, not a lot going on here. You know, you got some classes. Classrooms are gonna be down over here. You know, and honestly, let's go see if we can find an empty classroom so we can see what your typical size is gonna be for a Kansas State classroom here in Salina. So, actually coming up here in room 115 is where I had my honors class with Miss Brockway. Very nice lady. Enjoyed the class a lot. Now, as you can see, there's no lights. Oh, let me fix that. As you can see here, this probably looks like a science classroom, but this is honestly this is the average size of a K-State Salina classroom, being honest. You know, like I said, the classes are really small here. Actually, the Minorities in Aviation meeting here, it's a club I'm a part of, and for the most part, like I said, this is realistically it. You know, smaller than your typical high school. You know, there's classes going on. You know, this is where I meet for my aviation meteorology class. This is also one of our other lecture style rooms. Looks like it's empty right now, so we'll go take a look inside. But this is probably the biggest room we have in the tech center. Pretty average size. I think like probably 40 people in here. But honestly, that's about it. Don't want to bore you guys too much, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to Schilling Hall, so we can go check out what one of the dorms looks like and give you a look into what the main part of it looks like. Probably not gonna give you a room tour, maybe, you know, we'll see. But we're just gonna do a little bit of a deep dive into Schilling, what it looks like, what the kitchen's gonna look like for the chefs out there, and that's about it. So follow me, guys. All right, Schilling Hall, one of the original 2 dorm halls here at Salina. As you can see over there, like I pointed out earlier, got Earhart Hall. This is more of your residential side of Kansas State. You're not really going to be doing much on these buildings unless you know VA. Then if you point over there, you got the military building. That's where, you know, most of the VA stuff is going to be at. Well, let's go take a look inside into one of the original 2 founding dorm halls at Kansas State in Salina. Let's get it done. In order to access Harbin and Schilling, you're going to need your Kansas State ID to get into the building. So, as you come in through the doors, you're going to scan your ID right here, and then that'll let you in. And then, just like that, you're easily able to get into your dorm room. Now, this is the main lobby. How you can see the sign over there, Schilling Hall. You have a very conveniently placed first aid kit, you know, for any emergencies, and your AEDs. Over here, this is where you'll pick up your mail. Any like envelopes that your family might send, you'll find them over here. For packages though, you have to go to Earhart Hall, so keep that in mind. But for most of the time, any of your small envelopes can be found over here. Then over here, you're gonna have your kitchen for the whole entire building. So, comes with everything you're gonna need. Has a stove, microwave, sink, and there are some appliances that are, you know, here conveniently for you. You got some pots, baking, and then your refrigerator, you know. But make sure to label your stuff though. People will eat your food. As happened to me, because I'm smart and I don't really use the kitchen that much. But there's some booths here. Got another microwave for your convenience, and what also looks like to be a crock pot. So that's cool. Then if you follow me over here, you're gonna have the laundromat. This is where you're able to clean your clothes for free. Or not free, included with your cost of tuition. But this is where you will wash your clothes. You got 1 washer and 1 dryer. I will note, make sure you set a timer. People will take out your clothes. That has happened to me, and I don't like it a lot. So just make sure you're always paying attention and make sure you take out your clothes. But as you can see, not much to the first floor. The second floor is where all the action's at, so let's go. So we have another lounge. If your friends ever want to come out here, eat some food before you go to your class. And over here, the star of the show of Schilling is the commons room. Now, over here is where you're gonna have, a little bit of a study room, but also a ping pong table. Who doesn't love ping pong, am I right? You got a foosball table for the foosball enthusiasts out there. And you also have a TV for if you guys wanna have movie night. Also got some games here, Telestrations, Uno, my personal favorite. And there's only one way to play Uno, and that's the right way. If you know, you know. But, like I said, you got a nice little chair here. It's very comfy. It will fold on you if you're not careful. So pay attention to that. But obviously, for privacy reasons, we do not have access to the showroom for the school, but we can look at a different type of house, and that's Snoopy's house. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? And that's the type of quality you'll get from our RAs here at Kansas State. Always going out of their way to make sure that their hall looks nice, because that is a part of the job. As you can see, very, very nice stuff goes on in the dorms here. Also, forgot to point out the vending machine for your convenience, which you can use with your Cat Cash. So that's a plus. And you're probably wondering what Cat Cash is. Cat Cash is essentially $100 that is included with your price of tuition that you can use in the bookstore to get food from Manhattan if you decide to go there, or the vending machines. JK guys, just kidding. We're able to get into Schilling Hall thanks to a gracious sponsor of today's video, Hector Inc. So we're just gonna go ahead and check out this room. So instead of compared to Earhart, you're actually gonna need a physical key. I know, so old fashioned. So then all you do is just insert it. I'm assuming you turn it up. Oh, nope, that didn't work. Down? No. I have no idea to get into this room. Oh, I got it. I got it. As you can tell, I don't live here. And as you can see, if you look on the right, there's a sink there. As you can also tell, the lighting in here is not that good. We have, that's the third light, and it's still not the greatest lighting, as not compared to Earhart's LED lights. But this is the standard room for Schilling. Schilling. You get one really high bed above the desk, and then you have a mid-sized bed over here and another desk, 2 closet spaces, and for the most part, that's really about it. And then if you go over here next to the sink, this is where your bathroom would be. Should I go in here? Okay. Yeah, so you just go in here. This is the bathroom that you would share with your suite mate. How do you turn this on?
It's on.
Okay. Yep, and this is about it. You just get your standard shower, you get your toilet, and that's really about it. I'd rather prefer this, especially if you know your suite mate and you guys get along. I feel like it'd be all right. I do think the lighting here is pretty shady, but you get what you pay for. And honestly, that's about it. Personally, I rather prefer this. I will be moving next semester. I'm leaving the Big E, so we'll be going to the Big H, Harbin. So that's about it, guys, and let's go hop on to the next part of the tour. All right, welcome to Harbin Hall. Thanks to a gracious sponsor of today's video, we were able to get inside Harbin Hall. All right, so another little bit of a common room. Not as good as the common room in Schilling, but it's all right. Got another vending machine here, which you can use with your Cat Cash. We all know how much you love a good little midnight snack. And remember, little note, the cafeteria does close relatively early, so this might be a lifesaver, you never know. So if you follow me over here, you're gonna have a public restroom in case your swimmates are ever, blocking the bathroom. You can come in here and use it. Now note, this is not for personal use. This is only for emergencies only. Now you have your mailboxes over here, similar to Schilling. You can only get letters from here. Any bigger packages are going to be picked up at the Earhart Hall front desk. Keep that in mind. Now, if you follow me upstairs, is where you're going to have the main common room of Harbin, which I will say is very good. I'm not going to say, it mogs Schilling, but it's still pretty good. Over here, you have a new pool table, which was just installed recently over the winter break. Now, is it damaged? Kinda, not so much. But it is a pool table that doubles as a ping pong table. Wouldn't you love that? Now, like I said, a little bit of a seating area. You have a TV that I don't think works currently, but they are trying to fix it. And you know, have an infinite amount of pool cues for you to choose from. We're gonna cut that out. And yeah, you know, if you enjoy ping pong, pool, this is the dorm to be at. Now I will say, the main difference between Harbin and Schilling is probably the sink size. And I know that sounds like a joke. I'm not joking. That's literally, like, I think the only difference I can think of, besides the fact that Harbin gyms are a little bit smaller. But besides that, that's Harbin for the most part. Actually, let's go take a look at the kitchen real quick. That's gonna be over here. Okay. And this is the kitchen. Not as good as Schilling, not gonna lie. As you can see, very old school here. You know, we got the elementary school chairs that, you know, you bust your head on. But they do have an air fryer. I didn't see that in Schilling. Just gonna say it. You know, I'm unbiased because I don't live in either of these buildings. So if you come over here though, that's mostly about it. This is the end of Schilling. You got the RA Leprechaun Zach over here. And for the most part, you know, that's pretty about it. You know, you got a free spaceport over here, you know, write whatever you want. And you do actually get a very nice view of a part of the runway, which is also nice to look at. You can see a very little strip of the runway, which, if you're lucky, you might be able to see a fighter jet take off, which, you know, flight radar does exist, so, you know, try and track one. But this is the second dorm. Now let's go check out Earhart Hall, named after, obviously, Amelia Earhart. Now, this is the most expensive dorm, but more expensive doesn't always mean better. So let's take the elevator down now as we go look into Earhart Hall. Follow me, guys. Right. Here she is, the newest addition, as of right now, to our campus, Earhart Hall. And if you look over there, you have the not so impressive softball field or baseball field, whatever you want to call it. But who cares about that? We're here for Earhart Hall. This building, I think, was finished in 2022. So, as of right now, this is the newest building. I think it's among ours. But as you can see, let's take a walk into Earhart Hall. Now, this would be, since you can pick up mail from here, you actually do not need a key to get into the main lobby before midnight. After midnight, you're going to need a key to enter, which you would do so by, wow, this is embarrassing, grabbing your key fob, tapping it right here, and then you'll be able to walk inside of Earhart Hall. Now, if you come in here, you're going to have our front desk employee. Today we got Logan, you know, CA. How's your experience so far, K-State?
Pretty good. Making around $8 an hour here, but to do my homework, hey, something to do.
Hey, you heard him, something to do. Remember, not that much to do here, so whatever you can do counts. Yeah. As you say, we have another kitchen here. Looks like someone's making some pizza and didn't invite us. That's very rude. But we do have another pool table here. And for the most part, there's also a piano here. Now, in order to access, grammar, not the greatest, you have to use your key fob. As you can see, you got the mail, it's similar to every other room. We also have an event space, which students are allowed to use when they make a reservation. This is where certain clubs meet. Like, I do think D&D meets here. At least for my residence floor, we do meet here for our annual, you know, floor meeting and whatnot. You know, usually those happen before break. But for the most part, this room is mostly free, as you can see right here on the board. Not that much happening over there. But let's go take a look. Let's go take a look into my room. All right, this is Earhart Hall. We're on the first floor, the most secure floor in the whole building. All right, now let's go check out what your standard Earhart room looks like. So you're gonna use your key fob to get in, and compared to the other dorms, you actually can't choose whether or not your room door is locked because it just auto locks. And as you can see, there's no actual lock. So if you look on your right, there's gonna be your closet, and this is about the average space that you get. You know, not that much space, but for the most part, it's pretty all right. And then every room in Earhart comes with a microwave, which is nice. That's a little bit of a perk you don't get in the other two dorms. Got some more closet space, I guess, mostly for like your coat racks and stuff like that. And then over here, this is what my side of the room looks like. This is just the average. I'm very minimalist. Stay on that side. And then, I mean, for the most part, you got really bright LED lights. I mean, it's really bright, especially when you wake up in the morning. Like if I turn the lights off, you know, I got another light on, my fault. You know, it's still daytime, but at night it gets really dark. So these lights are really bright, which is kind of nice. And then as you can see, we have our thermostat over here that kind of works. You know, it does whatever it wants. You know, you set it to 1 degree and it'll just go right past that. Kind of sucks. But yeah, this is what you get for Earhart. You get a bed, you get a desk. And for the most part, that's really about it when it comes to Earhart. You know, very nice, new, modern dorm. You get your Ethernet box down there. Only one side gets an Ethernet box, unfortunately. So you got to figure out who's going to get the Ethernet box. But besides that, yeah, you know, it's a pretty nice room. Do I think it's worth the price? You know, that's debatable. You know, to each their own. But personally, you know, I would rather Harbin or Schilling, just for the fact that you get your own bathroom, or not your own bathroom, but you get a shared bathroom with like a suite mate. So realistically, you could only be sharing with one other person, which is way better than what we have in Earhart, which I'll go show you in a second. And this is what the bathrooms look like. So as you can see over here, we got 6 bathrooms over here. You got a communal sink here that everyone can use. And I'm going to show you what one of the bathrooms, one of the stalls look like. I think, yeah, this one's open. Okay. Nice. Let's go in here. All right, yeah, this one's clean. This is what the average Earhart bathroom looks like. Comes with a sink, comes with a shower, and of course a sink. And it does lock. Well, it's nice. You got 2 locks for extra security. And this is what everyone in Earhart shares. You share this amongst the whole floor. If you're on the first floor, you get a little perk. You can go to the second and third floor if the showers are booked. The second and third floor can't come here though. And for the most part, that's really about it. It's a nice bathroom, but like I said, I'd personally rather just, you know, share with 1 or 2 other people. But for the most part, that's really all there is to Earhart, especially for the first floor. I will say it's a very nice building, very new, modern. I think it was built around 22, 23. So, you know, it's not that bad. All right, so you just finished looking at what an Earhart room looks like. Now we're gonna go upstairs to the second and third floor, to see what it looks like on the common rooms for Earhart. So let's go take the stairs a little bit quicker, you know, save some time. Elevator here is kind of slow, to be honest, but to access the second floor and the elevator, you are gonna need to use your key fob, as you just saw there, to get upstairs, so let's go. You know what they say, stop and smell the roses. Let's stop and look at this beautiful view, guys. Got a great view of the One Vision hangar right over there. Got a great view of our field that we use maybe once a semester. Have a great view of the runway. And a great view of the other 2 dorm halls that don't have a 3rd floor. So as you can see up here, oh, what's up guys? We have another lounge. This is where you can watch TV. Also another kitchen. Look right over here. Oh, this is dirty. Okay. Got another kitchen. We got some study rooms over here too. Sorry guys. Decided to know it was so crowded today. We got another study room right here. You know, there's a little whiteboard. The check ride prep go crazy, guys. So, you know, always need a room to study. We got 4 of them in the building. 2 on the 3rd floor, 2 on the 2nd floor. Really great place to study, meet up with some people, you know, get some work done, because, you know, we're very studious out here. So let's take the elevator downstairs, where we're gonna wrap up our dorm tours. And this is where this front of the elevator comes into play. Don't click the buttons. So, but as you can see, that's gonna wrap up this tour of the dorms for the most part. You know, they're pretty nice. Unfortunately, you know, not able to show any rooms. I don't have any access to the showrooms, but this is it. And oh, why don't we wrap it up with a package? Now this is where you pick up your packages and stuff. Why don't you say goodbye to the camera for us, Logan?
Goodbye.
You have to wait.
Such great enthusiasm. As you can tell, he loves his job. He really loves his job, guys. He does it for the love of the game. But that's it, guys. This is it. Kansas State University, Salina. You know, if you're coming here for an education, which is what you should be doing, it's a great place. And as you can see, it's a very windy place. But, you know, it's a great place. I love it. You know, I don't think I'd see myself at another school. And yeah, you know, if this is, hopefully, you know, this was a little bit helpful and give you guys some little insight on what the school looks like. You know, it's obviously not as great as like an actual tour from a licensed tour guide, but you know, at least from a student, you know, I try to be unbiased. You know, I feel like I give some positives, some negatives, and you know, hopefully this will help you guys influence your decision. You know, go Wildcats.